dogs. They have been by our side for generations, but in all that time, there's been one man who has risen above and gained the true respect of our furry friends, and that man is Cesar Millan, aka the Dog Whisperer. And today, we're going to channel that power as I ask the question, can you beat Fallout 3 as Cesar Millan? What even is this? I had originally planned to try this idea in Dragon Age Origins, as in that game I could actually play as the dog, but long story short, I was having an absolutely horrible time trying to get that game to record, to the point where I shifted the idea over to Fallout 3. If it wasn't clear enough from the intro, allow me to explain further. What this means is that I am not going to be attacking anything myself in this run. The only way I can inflict damage is if I have Dogmeat or vicious dogs come to my aid from the Animal Friend perk. Upon being birthed into the world, I took the only appropriate name and then tried to make myself look like him. I sort of gave up halfway through if I'm being honest. When assigning my special stats, I drained strength as it's useless this time around since I'm not attacking directly. I then maxed out endurance for obvious reasons and then made sure to have at least 6 points in charisma to get the Animal Friend perk later on. The rest of the points just went into agility and intelligence. Most people agree that killing the rad roach is fine, otherwise all of these Fallout 3 videos would have me playing as a baby. And while I'm sure you all enjoy the idea of me suffering, I don't want to subject myself to that again unless absolutely necessary. I did switch it up by stepping on the roach rather than shooting it to keep things fresh. I took Barter, Medicine, and Speech as my tag skills. Barter and Medicine for the ability to buy and use stim packs with ease, and Speech as a sort of last resort should something happen to Dogmeat, as from my own past experiences in this game, he can be absurdly glitchy. From here, escaping the vault without attacking anything is rather simple, so I won't waste your time on it. Upon leaving the vault, I start heading northeast to get to the scrapyard as soon as possible to collect Dogmeat. On the way there, I ran into very few issues other than being attacked and chased by some vicious dogs. Clearly, they are unaware that I am their god. It took me a moment to find the good boy at the scrapyard, but it turns out he was in the middle of playing with some nearby raiders. I didn't want to be rude, so I patiently waited until he was finished. With Dogmeat recruited to the cause, I travelled back to Vault 101 and decided to pay Silver a visit as I normally do for some easy money. After threatening her, Dogmeat jumped to my rescue while I sat there taking multiple bullets to my chin. Once he was finished, we now had 400 caps and it was off to Megaton to buy as many stim packs as I could afford. Luck would have it that Doc Hoff was there when I arrived, which means I was able to nab 8 stim packs I wouldn't get otherwise. I then got another 9 from Doc Church in Megaton, bringing me to a total of 30 stim packs, which is quite absurd this early in the game. Afterwards, I headed to the saloon as I had originally planned to blow up the town for some easy XP, but after I failed to steal the terminal password from Moriarty, he became hostile, which must have really angered Dogmeat as he proceeded to not only bite off Moriarty's arm, but go on a killing spree around Megaton. The town had no idea what they were in for, as Dogmeat easily swept through the town like a tornado. This was also when I learned 2 new things about Dogmeat. 1, that he has an unprecedented number of hit points, which I figured out when he completely brushed off multiple rounds from Lucas Sims' Chinese assault rifle. And 2, that those hit points regenerate instantly as soon as he leaves combat. The reason I bought this many stim packs this early in the game is because I thought I would need them to keep him alive, but it seems I was very, very wrong. Well, anyway, while Dogmeat was busy feasting on the townsfolk, I decided to strip them all of their supplies and then pile up the bodies next to the bomb, just so Dogmeat could admire his handiwork. With the town now a glorified graveyard, Dogmeat and I began making our way to the metro tunnels, so we could get to Galaxy News Radio. Not because I'm deciding to follow the main story this time, but because I want to see him rip the jugular out of the super mutant behemoth in the plaza. In the sewers, I had a hell of a time trying to get Dogmeat to kill these ghouls. For some reason, he seems to have some weird aversion to being violent on the stairs, which I find odd because the number of times my own dogs have nearly pushed me down the stairs is so high that at this point it can't be an accident. Once he finally did kill the ghouls, however, the game then crashed and I had to do it all again. This isn't even the first time this has happened, by the way. By this point, the game had crashed 7 times. I've just been neglecting to mention it because saying Fallout 3 is broken on PC is like telling someone the sky is blue. Up on the surface, I wanted to see how well Dogmeat could handle super mutants, but the Brotherhood came along and messed that up completely. When the behemoth showed up, he was too distracted by the Brotherhood, so I tried to get his attention while Dogmeat tickled his toes. It did not end well. Second time around and things weren't much better for him. He was able to get 1 solid bite in before he proceeded to get stun-locked into oblivion by the big green monster. Also, if you didn't believe me about Dogmeat's health from earlier, this pretty much puts it into perspective. I have max endurance, and 1 hit from the behemoth while at nearly full health was enough to kill me. Whereas on Dogmeat, each swing only took off a single segment of his overall health. Perhaps he is the real hero here, for what are dog, if not god, but backwards. I tried talking to Dogmeat during the fight. He seemed less than thrilled at his current predicament. Can't say I blame him, but it didn't really matter as it did not take long for the Brotherhood to take out the behemoth. You are probably assuming that I'm going to help 3Dog due to his namesake, but you would be wrong, for he is no dog, making him a false prophet in our eyes, and for that, Dogmeat blew up his skull. At this point, my options were either go straight to Vault 112 as per usual, or head to the Jefferson Memorial. I ended up deciding on the Jefferson Memorial as I would need to clear it of super mutants at some point anyway, so may as well do it now. The only thing of worth that happened on the way there was Dogmeat got into a fight with a scavenger, and I think he may have tried to drown him at one point? But I'm honestly not quite sure. Well, once we get to the memorial, I was finally able to see Dogmeat take on a super mutant, and it honestly wasn't too bad. I ended up discovering a new method where I could get up behind enemies and could push them towards Dogmeat to help him land combos better, which did help to speed up future encounters. After clearing out the mutants, I decided to go to Rivet City as I needed to mark it on the map anyway, and I had been looting like crazy and thought I may as well sell some of the stuff and buy more stims. Back towards the plot, Dogmeat got into a fight with a pack of other dogs. Pretty sure my title of Dog Whisperer means I should be breaking up this conflict, but at this point I believe Dogmeat could kill me with a single thought if he wanted to. Vault 112 is no different than usual. Put on the vault suit, sit in the Tranquility Lounger, and be informed that you're in Braun's simulation. Unbeknownst to Braun, it is not his simulation, it is our simulation. Once Dad is free, it's straight back to Project Purity to push some buttons and pull a few levers before the Enclave arrive to ruin everything. Much like the super mutants from before, the Enclave soldiers don't seem to pose any real danger to Dogmeat, as he effortlessly chews through inches of steel. When I make my way back to the Purifier, I realise that something is a little off. For some reason, Autumn isn't standing directly in front of the door, but instead is over to my left. I briefly thought the game was softlocked as he began to wander around rather than shoot the scientist. Turns out, he just won the Executor with a bullet to the back of the head, however, so it all worked out in the end. Well, sort of. Remember how I mentioned Dogmeat can be glitchy? Well, that became apparent here, as he just kept despawning and respawning seemingly at random, which had me worried for the next part as Dr. Lee wouldn't follow me into the sewers as she was fleeing from the Enclave. Thankfully though, this problem fixed itself, as not only did Dogmeat come back at just the right moment, but something must have snapped in Dr. Lee's head as she began to take the fight to the Enclave with nothing but an old rusty knife. One life was not enough, however, and she grabbed the laser rifle from the Enclave soldier she just killed and began really going off the rails, to varying degrees of success. After that little escapade, she finally followed me into the sewers, but once again, Dogmeat despawned. So I just had to run through and avoid as many enemies as I could down here until I was able to reach the Citadel. After getting the location of Vault 87, I left the Citadel to try and find Dogmeat. Firstly, I went back to Vault 101, as that is where he usually ends up if the game doesn't know where to put him, but he wasn't there. I even tried waiting a full day, still nothing. I then went back into the sewers and tried waiting around and looking there, but he was still nowhere to be found. At this point, I'm getting progressively more and more nervous, as I really don't fancy the idea of trying to make my way through Vault 87 with no way to fend off the super mutants. I tried the scrapyard and even travelled to other locations I'd found and began waiting, but he still refused to show up. Finally, after about 40 minutes, I decided to go back into the sewers of the Jefferson Memorial as I was running out of options, and wouldn't you know it, for some baffling reason, now he is here and he's fighting a group of feral ghouls. I let him have his fun with his new chew toys, and once he was finished, it was back to Smith Casey's garage to make the short walk to Little Lamplight. On the way there, we ran into a super mutant being attacked by a group of Brahmin. I tried my best to even the odds, but this was a fight he was never going to win, unfortunately. Once at Lamplight, I realised for the first time I hadn't taken the Child at Heart perk, and was nervous that I wasn't going to pass the speech check. As the last thing I wanted to do right now was go and free the slaves. I'm saving that for the Can You Beat Fallout 3 It's Abraham Lincoln video. My fears were for nothing though, as I was able to pass the speech check and save myself some much needed time. There are only so many ways I can describe Dogmeat brutally savaging people before it becomes repetitive, so I just want you all to know that he killed every last super mutant inside the vault, as well as Sid. I tried to see if Dogmeat could go fetch the Gek for me, but I guess that's just too unrealistic for the game where you get abducted by aliens. So I ended up letting Fox out and he collected it for me instead. Before I got ambushed by the Enclave, I also made a backup save just in case Dogmeat got stuck inside Vault 87, as there was no way I was running back here to get him after the fact. Raven Rock went surprisingly well despite not having my bodyguard here with me. I put my speech skill to good use and convinced the Enclave soldier that I was to be trusted, so I could get a small head start before Autumn gives the order to kill me. Avoiding the Enclave after the fact isn't difficult, and besides, I've got max endurance and I've been taking perks to up my damage resistance this whole time, so they were never going to be an issue. I managed to convince Windows 10 that Fallout 3 will definitely work without issue, which is a lie, and therefore he exploded himself and everything else within a 100-foot radius. Outside, I was greeted with Fox, but no Dogmeat. Thankfully, however, he did go back to Vault 101 like I told him to, which saves me a massive headache, you have no idea. The stage is now set for the march to the Purifier. There isn't really anything me or Dogmeat can do here other than run behind Liberty Prime and wait until he gets to the Jefferson Memorial. Well, not being one to want to wait in place, I decided to run on ahead to speed things up a little. I may have been slightly overconfident in my endurance, thinking that I could tank hits, but Liberty Prime hit me with his Freedom Rays and that's an instant death right there. Well, because things were going too well, the game decides to throw one last curveball at me when I load back in. Liberty Prime is bugged and won't move. I tried waiting around and round ahead, but nothing worked. I briefly even tried fast travelling to Rivet City and glitching my way in past the energy field, because I know that works from past experiences, but I gave up on that idea after about 20 minutes due to a mix of getting nowhere and forgetting exactly where it is you can glitch past the barrier. Yes, I was too stubborn to look it up. I fixed the issue by just reloading an older save, which I'm more surprised I didn't try first before attempting speedrun strats. I stayed a good distance behind just to be extra safe, not to get atomized this time. And once the game of Follow the Leader was over and we made it inside, I went straight for the Rotunda so Dogmeat could have his fun with Colonel Autumn. Or at least that's what I wanted to happen, but instead he got distracted by the man in the shiny black suit and decided that he would be his last meal instead of the man who is the human embodiment of Foghorn Leghorn. Not learning from the situation with the Gek, I, for some reason, wanted to see if Dogmeat could activate the Purifier, but of course that isn't an option. You do, however, get a rather sad goodbye message, which kind of loses any emotional weight to it if you have broken steel, but let's not worry about that. Anyway, I go in, enter the code myself, and prove that yes, you can indeed beat Fallout 3 as Cesar Millan. Not that anybody in their right mind ever asked that question. This idea came about as a joke back in October when I was thinking of new ideas. I ended up liking it so much that I just had to go through with it. I would like to do the original idea for this in Dragon Age Origins, but that will probably be a very long video. Regardless, that's going to be the end of this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and if you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe as I try to have one of these videos out semi-frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, and I'll see y'all in the next video.